of y'all have seen this, right? Many of you guys have seen this. This is YouTube's honoring of Black History Month. There's been a lot of this going on. There's been a lot of it going on lately. And on the surface, I wouldn't think anything of it. If I wasn't, if I didn't see a connection with a lot of other things, but one of the things I'm noticing in the zeal of all of this, again, is the erasure of Black men and boys. With this public service announcement, I wanted you guys to challenge the corporate and state sanction removal of the Black male image. And this is across the board. And I call it corporate as well as state because I'm seeing this happen on multiple levels, right, across the board. And there's almost this kind of attempt to create this gynocentric or gynocratic, really homosocial Shangri-La. Like it's a gynocratic, homosocial Shangri-La. What does that mean? Well, it means, at least in terms of the imagery, you have, a female-centered, no male's presence kind of dynamic, right? So that's where you get the gynocentric aspect, the gynocratic aspect, but homosocial, right? Meaning that just in terms of the social dynamic, it is purely in regard to how one gender relates to itself. And that's one of the things we see, even in the depiction of these women here, right? And this Shangri-La element, this is something I talked about back when we were looking at, a couple of films that I saw where I saw the same kind of tropes by the end of the film, right? It was Black women's movies. And one of the things I noticed is by the end of them, the goal seemed to be consistently across the board, eliminating males who were always the problem, Black males in particular. And this goes from the TLC movies, across the board, right? Where you see these kind of ideas where, and again, Color Purple set the dynamic, right? So men are the problem, Black men at that, and they're a bigger problem than systemic white supremacy. They're a bigger problem than, any kind of racism, any kind of structural matters. It's Black men that are the problem. Even though weekly on this show, we review the data that shows how that's not the case, it's still nonetheless one of the popular tropes we see in popular media, right? So Black men have to be removed. And by the end of the film, you have this all-female collective living in this kind of Shangri-La, heaven-like existence with each other, as long as they've finally gotten rid of Black men. And so there's kind of an element of this when I see these kind of images celebrated across the board in absence of these women's husbands, boyfriends, sons, uncles, grandfathers, you name it, grandchildren, grandsons in particular. We don't exist in this kind of imagery. And I think it has really a detrimental effect over time. It's coming from so many different contexts. It's ridiculous, right? But this is nonetheless one of the things I see. And again, if I were to limit it to YouTube, I wouldn't care, but it's across the board. I'll give you a completely random example. I grapple with bouts of insomnia from time to time. And I was up last night looking for a shower curtain that I was going to purchase, right? So I'm on Amazon. I'm looking for a shower curtain. And I ran across one of these. I didn't think nothing of it. I was like, all right, whatever. I didn't put in Black girl shower curtain. I don't know what. But the interesting thing was I literally ran across 25 in a row of African-American women shower curtains. And I was like, what the hell is going on? So I tried to put in Black male, African-American male. I just wanted to see. I'm not necessarily trying to rock nobody on my shower curtain, but I just wanted to see if there was one. The only one I found was one where he's hugging up with a sister. So I was just like, this is interesting. This is an interesting dynamic. Even in terms of something completely irrelevant to the conversation, there's this interesting focus that makes no sense, until you put it into a larger context. So I'm just here to tell you, this erasure is going to have ramifications, and none of us are really thinking about that. And few people even seem to care, but it is going to have ramifications nonetheless, because these are the kind of things that kind of, you see it and you just say, oh, well, that's just, it's just a shower curtain. And then you see it over here. Oh, well, that's just YouTube. Then you see it over here. Oh, that's just about the 20th grant that I've seen. And then you see it over here. Well, that's just that TV show. Now that's just that movie. And okay, so the Black girls are hanging over there by themselves, and they're talking about the males. And this is something I get from my son. He come home from school and tell me about the social dynamics between Black girls and boys on the campus. And then I'll hear it from a brother I'm talking to that lives in Philly, and another in Texas, and another in Chicago, and another in New York. And it's like, I don't take these things lightly, right? I don't take these things lightly. Appreciate the support, Kay. All right. So these kind of things I think we got to watch, because I think they're going to end up having a detrimental effect on how we are socialized. They become part of the socialization method. And again, we don't know how to talk about them, because if you single out talking about males, you're inherently a misogynist. And if you single out talking about women, as long as it's celebratory, you're okay. If there's a critique, again, you're a misogynist. But no critical analysis about whether or not there's actually something going on, right? So just to put that on the agenda, but we're going to deal with it. You know me, we're going to deal with more of it because there's more of it to deal with.